There are places, people, and situations that don't just drain your energy, they shrink your spirit. And somehow, we convince ourselves that enduring this is normal, that shrinking is safer than standing up, safer than leaving, safer than choosing ourselves. Your spirit wasn't made to survive life. It was made to grow through it. So many of us remain in environments that press us inward inch by inch until one day we no longer recognize the person we've become. We call it responsibility. We call it stability. But deep down, it's something else entirely. It's the quiet belief that we are better off staying where we are than daring to imagine where else we might belong. What we rarely acknowledge is just how much our surroundings shape us, not subtly, but profoundly. Your environment is not simply where you live or work. It is the atmosphere that teaches you what to expect from life and what to expect from yourself. It influences the tone of your thoughts, the posture of your confidence, even the rhythm of your ambitions. You've felt this before, haven't you? Walk into a room filled with possibility and your chest expands a little. Walk into a room filled with doubt or smallness, and something inside you folds without a word. We like to believe we are independent from the spaces we inhabit, but the truth is far gentler and far more dangerous. They seep into us, quietly, steadily, until we begin to mirror them. Spend enough time around people who settle, and you begin to shrink your dreams to match theirs. Spend enough time in places where your voice isn't heard, and the silence starts to feel familiar. Spend enough time in situations that diminish your worth, and eventually you forget what it feels like to stand tall. This shrinking doesn't happen suddenly. There's no great collapse. It's more like a slow tightening around the edges of your spirit. A little hesitation here, a little self-doubt there, a subtle dimming of enthusiasm, a soft lowering of expectations. Before long, what once felt exciting now feels out of reach. What once felt possible now feels distant. And what once felt like your true self becomes a faint memory of who you used to be. We underestimate the power of the environments we tolerate. We underestimate how much the wrong room can convince you that your light is too bright, or too naive, or unnecessary. We underestimate how easily the wrong voices can turn your strengths into burdens, your dreams into inconveniences, and your ambitions into foolish ideas. Your spirit knows when it's being asked to shrink. It knows when it is being pressed into a shape that does not belong to it. It knows when it is staying somewhere it has already outgrown. And it sends signals, subtle ones, a heaviness you can't explain, a quiet dread at the start of the day, a feeling that you are meant for more, though you can't yet name what more means. These signals are not signs of weakness. They are reminders that you were not built to remain small. So let me ask you a question. Where in your life has your spirit been whispering, "I cannot grow here"? Because before anything can change, before you can reclaim your direction, your confidence, your sense of purpose, you must first recognize the places where your spirit is being asked to shrink. And you must be willing to consider something radical, something liberating. You do not have to stay where your spirit cannot breathe. How people can limit your growth without ever meaning to. It's a strange thing to realize that the people around you, even the kind ones, even the well-meaning ones, can quietly limit your growth without ever intending harm. They don't wake up with plans to keep you small. They don't try to dim your spirit out of malice. Often they simply speak from the boundaries of their own world, and when you live too closely to someone else's limits, you begin to adopt them as your own. You see, every person carries a picture in their mind of what life should look like, a picture shaped by their fears, their past, their beliefs, their sense of what is realistic. And when they care about you, they often offer advice from that picture. They warn you about the unknown because they fear the unknown. They encourage you to stay where it's steady because they are unsettled by change. They question your dreams because somewhere along the way, they were taught to question their own. Their intentions are soft, yet the influence is powerful. A man once told me that the greatest resistance he ever faced didn't come from adversaries. It came from the gentle discouragement of those who loved him, not because they doubted his ability, but because they feared for his comfort. They couldn't imagine the world he wanted to step into, so they nudged him toward the world they already understood. And for years, he mistook their concern for wisdom. We all do this at some point. We stay in conversations, friendships, and routines that quietly anchor us to who we used to be. We absorb opinions that were never meant to guide our lives. We adapt ourselves to the expectations of people who cannot imagine our growth because they have not witnessed their own yet. And none of them set out to hold us back. They simply speak from the edges of what they believe is possible. If you're not careful, their limits start to sound like your own reasoning. You begin to shrink new ideas so they fit the comfort of others. You talk yourself out of opportunities because someone else wouldn't take them. You tone down your excitement because someone can't understand it. Piece by piece, you adjust yourself to match the scale of the room you're in. People rarely notice when your spirit begins to shrink. They see your surface, your smile, your nod, your polite acceptance, and they assume everything is fine. They assume you're content. They assume this is where you belong. Meanwhile, something inside you is growing restless, aware that your life is being shaped not by your own voice, but by the echo of someone else's comfort. Growth often requires stepping away from the walls that others live within, not angrily, not defiantly, simply because your path is not theirs. And until you recognize how easily well-meaning hands can guide you into a smaller version of yourself, you may continue to stay in places that were never meant to hold the fullness of your spirit. The hidden signs that your spirit is slowly shrinking. A diminishing spirit doesn't announce itself with alarms or thunder. It rarely arrives in a moment of crisis. Instead, it shows up quietly, in the routines you repeat without thought, in the conversations that no longer nourish you, in the subtle way your enthusiasm begins to thin. If you don't look closely, you might mistake these signs for normal parts of adulthood. But deep down, you know they signal something deeper. One of the earliest signs is a soft, persistent heaviness. Not exhaustion, not sadness, but a weight that settles over your days. You wake with it, you carry it, you try to ignore it, and yet it lingers because it is not tied to fatigue. It is tied to misalignment. A life lived in the wrong direction always feels heavier than it should. Another sign appears in your conversations. You find yourself speaking less boldly, offering fewer ideas, withholding parts of yourself, not because you've lost your voice, but because the environment around you no longer feels like a place where your voice can land and be understood. You begin adjusting your tone, your hopes, even your humor, just to fit the room. That adjustment, gentle as it may seem, is the quiet bending of your spirit. There is also the erosion of excitement, that natural spark you once carried. The curiosity, the eagerness, the sense of possibility begins to dull. Things that once stirred life in you now feel distant, even foolish. You start explaining away your desires, telling yourself they're impractical or unnecessary, when the truth is simpler. You've been standing in a place that cannot hold the fullness of who you are. Another sign is avoidance. You avoid thinking about the future because doing so makes your chest tighten. You avoid imagining new paths because something inside whispers that you're not allowed to want more. This avoidance isn't laziness. It's your spirit trying to protect itself from the disappointment of staying small for too long. And perhaps the most telling sign of all is this: you no longer feel like yourself. You feel like a thinner version, a quieter version, a restrained version. You sense that somewhere along the way, you traded authenticity for acceptance, and now you're wearing a life that doesn't quite fit. These signs are subtle, but they are not accidental. They appear when the environment around you asks you to shrink more often than it invites you to rise. Your spirit is always trying to communicate with you. It nudges you, tugs at you, sends unease into the spaces where you've overstayed your welcome. These signals are not meant to frighten you. They're meant to wake you. They're meant to remind you that you were never designed to live pressed into the corners of your own life. The shrinking happens quietly, but so does the calling to expand. Why outgrowing people and places is a natural part of becoming your true self. There comes a moment in every person's life when the familiar no longer feels like home, not because anything dramatic has changed, but because you have. Your inner world begins to stretch, reach, and awaken in ways the old environment can't accommodate. Outgrowing people and places is not rebellion, betrayal, or ingratitude. It is evidence that you are becoming who you were always meant to be. Growth is rarely symmetrical. We don't all evolve at the same pace or in the same direction. You may find that someone who once understood you deeply can no longer hear the language of your spirit, or that a place that once felt comforting now feels too small, as though you've learned everything it had to teach you. This mismatch isn't a failure, it's a natural progression of life. Imagine wearing a coat that fit you perfectly years ago. It kept you warm, protected you, made you feel secure. But now, the sleeves pinch, the buttons strain, and the fabric restricts your movement. The coat hasn't changed. You have. And no matter how much affection you may have for it, you cannot expect it to stretch to your new size. People and places are much the same. There are relationships that once supported you, but now hold you still. There are routines that once gave you structure, but now feel like cages. There are environments that once nurtured you, but now dull your instincts and mute your ambition. And while it may feel disloyal to acknowledge this, ignoring it only prolongs the discomfort. Growth requires honesty, the kind of honesty that says, I am not who I was, and I cannot keep pretending to fit into a life I have outgrown. Some will understand, others will not. But understanding is not the requirement. Alignment is. You must align yourself with environments that allow your spirit to expand, not shrink. You must choose surroundings that mirror not your past, but your becoming. You do not outgrow people because you are superior. You outgrow them because your life is calling you toward experiences they may not be ready for. You do not outgrow places because they are unworthy. You outgrow them because your path is stretching beyond their borders. Walking away doesn't make you cold or ungrateful. It means you're listening, finally listening, to the quiet wisdom inside you that knows when a chapter has served its purpose. And when you honor that inner knowing, you'll find something remarkable happens. You begin to meet people who speak to the person you are becoming, not the person you were. You begin to enter places that feel more spacious, more alive, more reflective of your true nature. You begin to grow in ways that once felt unreachable. Outgrowing is not losing. Outgrowing is moving toward your potential, moving toward your authenticity, moving toward the life that fits the size of your spirit. How choosing the right environment unlocks your confidence, purpose, and potential. There is a shift that takes place the moment you step into an environment that nourishes your spirit instead of shrinking it. It doesn't happen with fireworks or a sudden burst of clarity. It happens in the quiet way your posture straightens, the way your thoughts regain color, the way you begin to feel like yourself again, not in fragments, but in full. A person's environment has a remarkable influence on the strength they can access within themselves. When you are in a place that recognizes your voice, something inside you steadies. When you're around people who encourage your growth, your confidence begins to rise, not as a performance, but as a natural expression of being seen. When you're surrounded by ideas that challenge you to stretch, your potential awakens like a muscle long left unused. The right environment doesn't force you to become someone new. It allows you to return to who you truly are. Think of how you feel in places where curiosity is welcomed instead of dismissed. Your mind opens, your imagination stirs, you begin to explore possibilities that once felt too distant to consider. The world seems larger, and suddenly, so do you. Or consider how you feel around people who speak to your strengths rather than your shortcomings. You begin to notice abilities that had been sleeping beneath layers of doubt. You find yourself stepping into responsibilities you once shied away from. You discover a steadier voice, a deeper courage, a clearer sense of direction. Not because they were handed to you, but because the right environment created the conditions for them to emerge. Purpose, too, becomes clearer when your surroundings support the person you're becoming. Purpose cannot grow in soil that stifles you. It grows where you feel alive, where your contributions matter, where your presence makes a difference. And potential, that vast landscape of unseen ability within you, reveals itself only when there is room for it to stretch. It needs space. It needs air. It needs a place where you can experiment, stumble, rise, and continue forward without being judged for the size of your ambition. When you choose an environment that aligns with your spirit, you stop living defensively and begin living intentionally. You no longer use your energy to protect yourself from negativity or doubt. Instead, that energy flows into creation, vision, and movement. Your inner world begins to rise toward the level of what surrounds it. The right environment doesn't simply change how you feel. It changes what you believe is possible. It alters the map of your future. It strengthens the way you carry yourself. It turns hesitation into direction, and direction into momentum. This is why staying where your spirit is shrinking is never an act of loyalty. It is an act of postponing your life. The environments you choose today shape the person you are capable of becoming tomorrow. Choose places that honor your growth. Choose people who see the brightness in you. Choose situations that call something higher out of you. Because the moment you step into the right environment, you realize something powerful. Your confidence was never missing. Your purpose was never lost. Your potential was never absent. It was simply waiting for the space to unfold. So, there comes a moment in every life when you must choose. Stay where your spirit is dimming, or walk toward the place where it can finally breathe. No one can make that choice for you. No encouragement, no applause, no reassurance can replace the quiet decision you make within yourself. A decision to stop shrinking for the comfort of others and to start expanding for the sake of your own becoming. Your spirit has been speaking to you all along, in the restlessness you tried to ignore, in the dreams that refused to die, in the quiet knowing that you were not meant to remain the smaller version of yourself. Those whispers were never warnings, they were invitations. If you step toward the life that calls you, even by a single inch, you will feel the shift. Your posture changes, your mind clears, your purpose begins to rise like something long asleep, and in that moment, you realize that leaving what diminishes you is not abandoning your life, it is reclaiming it. Never remain in a place where your spirit must shrink to survive. Seek the rooms that honor your light, the paths that ask you to grow, the people who encourage your unfolding. Because when your spirit expands, your life expands with it. And that expansion is where your true future begins.